It all started the weekend we moved into the old farmhouse my brother and I inherited from our late uncle. The place had been vacant for over 20 years, frozen in time. Dust coated every surface, and the scent of mildew clung to the walls like cobwebs. Despite the age, the house had a charm we couldn't ignore. Wide wooden beams, creaky floorboards, and an attic that hadn't been touched in decades. We decided to tackle the attic last. It was the one place our uncle always told us never to go into, even as kids. Naturally, that made it all the more intriguing. We pulled down the creaking ladder and ascended into the musty darkness, armed with flashlights. The attic was filled with boxes, old furniture, and forgotten memories. Among the clutter, we found something unusual. An old Sony camcorder sitting atop a trunk, its surface coated with grime and cobwebs. The camera had a tape still inside. Curious, we brought it downstairs. To our surprise, the battery still held some charge. The tiny screen flickered to life. The footage was grainy, time-stamped from 10 years ago, yet unmistakably showing the very living room we were sitting in. The camera panned across the space and then focused on two people sitting on the couch. My brother and me. Same faces, just a little older. Same clothes we were wearing right now. We stared in stunned silence as the camera recorded us, but then the image glitched. The next frame showed us lying on the floor, pale and lifeless, our eyes wide open in terror. Blood pooled around our heads. Then the tape cut to static. "What the hell was that?" my brother whispered. I didn't have an answer. The room felt colder suddenly, the air heavier. Neither of us wanted to admit it, but something had changed. The moment we watched that tape, we felt it. A shift, like some force had become aware of us, watching us. And it had already recorded how this ends. Sleep didn't come easy that night. I kept seeing our faces on the tape, lifeless and twisted in fear. Every creak in the house made me sit upright. My brother stayed downstairs, replaying the footage again and again, as if a second look might offer clarity. But every time it ended the same. By morning, we were both wrecks. "Maybe it's a prank," he said, though his voice lacked conviction. "Deep fake or something. Maybe someone edited our faces onto old footage." I nodded slowly, even though I didn't buy it either. We didn't have enemies. We didn't even have friends close enough to pull something this elaborate. We tried researching the camcorder model. It was discontinued over 15 years ago. The tape? A format no one used anymore. It wasn't connected to anything, and yet it showed the future. Then things got worse. That afternoon, we noticed the living room had shifted. A vase in the background of the tape? It appeared on the shelf, even though we hadn't unpacked it. My brother's hoodie, the one he wore in the footage, was missing from his suitcase, only to be found neatly folded on the couch. Reality was catching up to the tape. We tried leaving the house, just for air, maybe food. The front door wouldn't open. The lock wasn't jammed. It had no keyhole now, just smooth, seamless wood where the knob used to be. We checked the windows, nailed shut, no tools in sight, trapped. Then as we stood panicking in the hallway, we heard it. The unmistakable whir of the camcorder, turning on by itself. We ran back to the living room. The screen was playing again. Only this time we weren't dead yet. We were arguing. And one of us was holding a knife. We stared at the screen as our future selves shouted, our words too muffled to hear. My digital self had a wild, frantic look in his eyes, while my brother gripped a kitchen knife so tight his knuckles were white. Then, just before anything happened, the tape glitched again. It paused, skipped backward, and began playing from a different point. Now we were outside in the woods near the farmhouse. My brother was alone, digging frantically, his face pale, soaked in sweat. He kept glancing over his shoulder, and then suddenly he stopped, looked directly at the camera, right into the lens, right into us. I yanked the camcorder plug from the wall. The screen died instantly. My brother looked at me, shaken. What was I digging for? Why was I alone? I had no answer, but we both felt it. The boundaries of time weren't just shifting, they were collapsing. We tried to destroy the tape. We smashed it under a hammer, lit it on fire. But no matter what we did, the camcorder always had a new tape inside the next time we checked. And each time we watched, the events crept closer to now. That night I dreamed of the attic. But in the dream, it was bigger, endless, stretched into a dark corridor filled with hundreds of camcorders, each one blinking red. And in each one, we died differently. The next morning, my brother was gone. No note, no phone, just the camcorder sitting on the kitchen table. It was already playing. The footage played on its own. My hands trembled as I leaned in to watch. On the screen, I saw myself, wearing the same shirt I had on now, pacing the hallway, muttering to myself. My eyes were red, haunted. I looked like I hadn't slept in days. Then the camera panned left, revealing my brother, lying face down at the bottom of the stairs. Unmoving. Blood pooled beneath his head, just like the first tape. I dropped the camcorder and backed away, heart pounding so loudly it drowned out my thoughts. My brother was gone, but this tape, it was showing how I'd find him. And if the past patterns meant anything, it was going to happen soon. I ran through the house calling his name. Every room, every closet, the attic. Nothing. I tried the door again, still sealed shut. Like part of the wall, I banged on the windows until my hands ached. No one came. No one could come. I was alone. I returned to the kitchen and noticed something I hadn't before. Dirt on the floor. A trail of it, leading from the back door to the basement stairs. With dread crawling up my spine, I followed it. The basement was damp and cold. The light bulb flickered as I descended. At the bottom, I found a shovel leaning against the wall and muddy footprints leading to a far corner. There, hidden behind old shelves and broken furniture, was a fresh pile of disturbed earth. And something sticking out of it. Fabric. From a hoodie. My brother's hoodie. I screamed and stumbled back, nearly falling. I didn't want to believe it, but the image was clear. The camcorder hadn't lied. Time was folding in on itself, showing me events before they occurred. Or causing them? I ran back upstairs and threw the camcorder into a box, taped it shut, and shoved it into a closet. Then I locked myself in the bathroom. I had to think. I had to stop this. But the silence didn't last. From the hallway, I heard it again. The camcorder had turned back on. And this time it was playing a different tape, one I'd never seen before. A woman was on screen. I didn't recognize her, but she was crying and calling my name. The tape played from somewhere in the house. I didn't dare leave the bathroom, but I could hear her voice, soft, cracked with emotion, calling through the crackling static. "Daniel, please, you have to listen." It was a woman's face on the screen. Pale, eyes swollen from crying. She sat in a dark room lit only by the flicker of the camcorder's night vision. Her hands trembled as she held up a newspaper clipping. It was blurry, but I could make out the headline. 2 siblings found dead in isolated home. Authorities baffled by camcorder footage. The date was next week. "I've seen what's coming," she said, her voice breaking. "You think you can stop it, but you can't. Every time you try, the camcorder, it adapts. It wants you to see. It needs you to watch." I stared at the bathroom door, frozen in disbelief. Who was she? How did she know my name? Was she from the future? Or from a different version of this reality? "I tried to destroy it," she whispered. "I burned the tapes. I smashed the lens. But it always finds its way back. The footage changes, like it's rewriting what's next, like it's watching us." Suddenly, the camera jolted. A loud bang echoed in the background of the video, and she looked off-screen, terrified. "No," she whispered, backing away. "Not yet. Not—" The screen went black. I bolted out of the bathroom and raced to the closet where I'd locked the camcorder. The box was open, the camcorder gone. Panicked, I turned, and there it was, resting on the living room table. Still recording. The red light blinked steadily, aimed at the front door. As I approached it, I saw the screen had frozen on a new frame. My brother, sitting in a chair. Me, standing behind him. And in my hand, a knife. No, I said aloud, shaking my head. That's not real. I'd never, but deep inside I remembered the strange sensation from earlier. A moment of blackout. A missing hour. The camcorder had captured something I couldn't even remember doing. Or maybe something I hadn't done yet. From the hallway came the sound of footsteps, heavy, slow, and then my brother's voice. Dan, you home? I turned to face the camcorder. It was already recording. Dan! His voice was right outside the living room now, casual, unsuspecting. My mind raced. What had I just seen? Me, a knife, my own brother in the chair. Was that my future? Or just another manipulated illusion? Was the camcorder showing the future or creating it? The door creaked open. My brother stepped in, brushing leaves off his hoodie. He looked normal, alive, not buried, not bleeding. Power's out in the whole block, I think, he muttered, not noticing how pale I'd gone. Phones are dead too. Dude, what's wrong? I couldn't speak. Because behind him, on the table, the camcorder's screen was still blinking. And it had changed. The frame now showed both of us, side by side, staring directly into the lens. But we weren't holding anything. No knife. No fear. Just blank expressions, dead eyes. My brother noticed it too. When did we film that? He asked, stepping closer. We didn't, I whispered. He picked it up before I could stop him. And the camcorder spoke. Not aloud, but through its audio feed, the static folded into words. Words that weren't ours. They saw what they were never meant to see. My brother dropped it with a gasp. The screen switched again, this time showing the attic. From an angle I didn't recognize, there were shadows moving across the beams, too tall to be human, gliding instead of walking. The feed flickered, then it focused in on a new timestamp. Tomorrow, 2:13 a.m. Us again, but not in the living room. We were in the attic, and something was standing behind us. Tall, black, mouthless, watching. What the hell is this? My brother said, panic rising. Dan, what's happening? The light in the room dimmed, the camcorder whirred again. And suddenly the door to the attic, the one that had never opened before, clicked, and slowly began to creak open. The door opened with a groan that sent ice through my veins. My brother and I just stared. That door had been locked, sealed shut for years. There wasn't even a keyhole, just painted over hinges and rotting wood. But now it stood open like it had been waiting for us. A soft whir behind us. The camcorder had turned to face the attic. I didn't move. I couldn't. But my brother, curious, always braver than me, stepped forward. I don't remember the attic being that deep, he muttered. It wasn't. The space beyond the doorway shouldn't have been larger than a crawl space. But what we saw was a pitch-black corridor, wooden planks stretching further than the house should allow. Something's wrong with this house, I whispered. He turned to me, eyes wide. Dan, what if this isn't our house? I didn't want to consider what that meant, not when everything, space, time, memory, had already begun to unravel. We should have walked away. We should have closed the door and burned the camcorder, the tapes, everything. But something pulled us in. Not physically, mentally, like a hook inside our thoughts. He took the first step, then the second. I followed. Inside, the air was thick, wet. The only light came from the red glow of the camcorder, which now floated behind us like it had a mind of its own. The corridor narrowed as we moved, then widened again, then twisted, impossible angles, bending space like it was breathing. We passed doorways that hadn't been there before. One showed a flickering image of our parents' bedroom years ago, before the divorce, before everything fell apart. Another showed me, sleeping in my bed. Now, wearing the same clothes I had on. "This isn't a hallway," I said. "It's a timeline." My brother grabbed my arm. "Look!" At the end of the corridor, another room opened up. It was an attic, but not ours. Old toys, dusty furniture, and in the center a circle of camcorders, all recording. And in the middle of that, a body, limp, pale, face turned away. But the shirt, it was mine. I stumbled back, heart hammering. No, that's not real. But my brother wasn't looking at the body. He was staring up at the rafters, where something was hanging, watching. "Dan," he whispered. I looked and saw myself suspended upside down like a puppet, eyes open, smiling. That grin, it wasn't natural. It stretched too wide, teeth perfectly aligned like a mannequin's. The other me hung motionless from the rafters, limbs slack, head tilted at a grotesque angle. But the eyes were alive, locked on mine, watching, knowing. My brother stepped back, whispering, "Dan, that thing is you." "No," I choked. It's not me. It can't be." But the camcorders circling the room told another story. Each one was playing a different moment in time. Some showed me as a child, laughing in our backyard. Others showed us fighting, moments I had forgotten or maybe never lived. And in a few, I was standing over my brother, hands covered in blood. "I think it's feeding," my brother said. "Feeding on versions of us, on memories, on possibilities." The camcorder behind us beeped again. We turned. Now it displayed a split screen. One side showed us right now, frozen in horror. The other showed a countdown. 0 hours, 12 minutes, and 15 seconds. 0 hours, 12 minutes, and 14 seconds. 0 hours, 12 minutes, and 13 seconds. "What happens when it hits 0? I asked. No answer. Just silence, heavy and alive. My brother moved toward the body hanging from the rafters. "If it's some twisted version of you, maybe it's a warning. Maybe it's what happens if we don't stop this. Or maybe it's bait," I said, "to get us to make a mistake." He reached out, against every instinct screaming in my head. The moment his fingers brushed the body's arm, its mouth moved. "You're too late," it whispered. Then its head twisted, violently until it faced me completely. "We've already seen it." Suddenly the camcorders in the circle turned. All at once, their lenses aimed directly at us. Light exploded. My mind fractured, and I was back in the living room, gasping, sweating, alone. The camcorder sat on the table, still recording, still pointed at the attic door. My brother was gone. The footage on the screen now showed me, sitting here, alone, murmuring something over and over. "Play the next tape." And in my real voice, I realized I was whispering it too. I didn't remember getting back to the living room. I didn't remember sitting down. But there I was, caught in the red-lit lens of the camcorder, muttering the same phrase like a prayer on repeat. "Play the next tape, play the next tape, play the next tape." My mouth moved even as my brain screamed to stop. My hand reached, mechanical, as if possessed. And there it was, a new tape, unlabeled, slick with something warm and wet. It hadn't been there before. I pushed it into the camcorder. The screen glitched, then cleared. And there it was, my brother, tied to a chair, gagged, alive, eyes full of terror. And behind him, shadows. They didn't move like people. They pulsed, fluid and flickering like static. Limbs too long, faces warped like smeared oil paintings. They circled him, slowly, whispering in reverse. One leaned close to the camera, its mouth stretching wide like torn film. "He's not dead, yet." I shot to my feet, panic roaring through me. "Where is he?" I screamed. The camcorder's screen shifted, now showing the attic again. But this time it was rotting. The wood buckled, beams sagging like ribs from a dead animal. The furniture was ash, scorched black, and the ceiling wept something dark and alive. And in the middle, my brother, still in that chair, still breathing, just barely. The timer on the screen read 0 hours, 5 minutes, and 37 seconds. It was counting down again. I ran. I didn't think. I didn't breathe. I just ran. Up the stairs, past the old family portraits that now watched me, up to the attic door that once again stood closed. Okay, to no handle, no hinges, just an outline. I turned back. The hallway behind me was gone. Only darkness now, no exits, no windows. The house had changed, trapped. I faced the attic door and screamed, pounded, begged, "Let me in, he's still alive." And then, like a sigh, the door opened. Inside, it was darker than I remembered, deeper. The hallway had changed shape again, no longer familiar. It led downward now, as if the attic had sunk into the earth. The timer on the camcorder beeped in my hand. 0 hours, 4 minutes, and 59 seconds. I stepped in, and the door vanished behind me. The floor groaned beneath my feet as I stepped into what should have been the attic, but wasn't. The slanted roof, the wooden beams, the dusty old trunks, they were gone. In their place stretched a corridor of wet stone and flickering overhead bulbs that swung despite the still air. This place breathed. Each step echoed like I was walking inside something alive. The camcorder in my hand continued to record, its lens blinking like an eye, the countdown relentless. 0 hours, 4 minutes, and 23 seconds. My brother's muffled cries echoed from far ahead, distant, warped, as if underwater. I ran. The corridor twisted, defying geometry. Sometimes I turned corners that shouldn't exist. Sometimes I walked straight and ended up where I began. At one point, I passed a wall covered in framed photos of me, aged, decayed, burned. One image showed me lying in a coffin. Another showed me behind bars, screaming silently. One showed me standing exactly where I was now, bleeding from the eyes. I turned away. More laughter echoed down the tunnel. High-pitched, childlike. It sounded familiar. I stopped. There, just ahead, my childhood bedroom door. Why was it here? I hesitated, and then the door opened on its own. Inside was me, age 7, sitting on the floor watching cartoons. I stepped in. The boy version of me turned slowly toward me. His eyes were hollow. His mouth opened, and in a voice too deep to belong to a child, he said, "You keep watching, even when you shouldn't. That's what lets it in." The screen on the camcorder glitched. My brother flashed on the display again. Now he was crying. His fingers were missing. The shadows were closing in. 0 hours, 2 minutes, and 11 seconds. I screamed and ran out, back into the stone corridor. Now the walls pulsed. The light flickered blood red. Ahead, I saw the glow of old televisions, stacked in a crooked pyramid, each playing different deaths. Mine, my brother's, ones I didn't recognize. One of the screens showed what came next, dragging my brother's lifeless body through this corridor. And behind me, one of the shadows, wearing my face on. "No!" I roared. I smashed the screen. Glass exploded, and then I heard it. My brother, closer now, weak, but real. I followed the sound, turned the corner, and there he was, tied to the chair, eyes wide. Still alive. I rushed forward, and just as I reached him, the camcorder beeped. 0 hours, 0 minutes, and 3 seconds. 0 hours, 0 minutes, and 2 seconds. 0 hours, 0 minutes, and 1 second. The footage stopped. Everything went black. Darkness swallowed me whole. For a moment, I was nothing but a void. Breath caught in my throat, heart pounding in a silence so loud it felt deafening. Then the screen flickered back to life. Static. The camcorder's red recording light blinked steadily. And there, in the grainy footage, was me, but not the me I knew. This version sat calmly in a dim room, eyes hollow, voice low and steady. "Did you watch the last tape?" it asked. I wanted to scream. Who are you? What is this? But the voice continued before I could respond. Time is a circle. The future is already written. What you saw, the deaths, the corridors, the shadows, they're not warnings. They're memories. Memories. I shivered. The figure smiled, a sad, cold curl of lips. You think you found the camcorder in the attic, but it found you. Suddenly the footage shifted, showing the attic from outside the house. The camera panned slowly to reveal the front porch, where we had just been standing. The timestamp was today. And then the figure's voice whispered, barely audible, "We are already dead." My breath hitched. The camcorder dropped from my hands. The attic doors slammed shut upstairs. I was alone, but I heard footsteps, slow, deliberate, coming down the stairs. The footsteps echoed closer, each one heavier than the last. My heart thundered in my chest, every instinct screaming to run, but my legs were frozen, glued to the floor. The camcorder lay shattered on the ground, its screen flickering one final time. Upstairs, the attic door creaked open. A cold wind blew through the house, extinguishing every light. In the pitch black, a whisper brushed past my ear. You were never supposed to leave the attic. I spun around. No one was there. But then I saw it, a shadow moving just beyond the edge of the darkness. A figure with my face but twisted, empty eyes staring into my soul. Suddenly, everything snapped into focus. The camcorder footage, the endless corridors, the shadows, they weren't just warnings or memories. They were a trap, a loop, a prison. I realized with bone-chilling clarity that the moment I found that old camcorder, I had already been doomed. No escape, no rescue. Only the repeating nightmare of watching ourselves die, over and over, through the eyes of a cursed camera. And as the shadow advanced, I knew the last frame was coming. The frame where I would disappear. Forever. The screen on the camcorder blinked off, and so did the world around me.